Welcome friends to another r/am I the jerk video. Would you be the jerk if you got mad over not getting invited to your ex's wedding? We'll find out, but first a story from historical key 9029. Am I the jerk for calling my baby daddy's wife an idiot? My baby daddy, Luca, 34-year-old male, and I, 23-year-old female, have a 1-year-old girl called Ivy. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was the other woman. Luca was one of my friend's professors. I met him when my friend was exposing her work at an art gallery hosted by him, and I was mesmerized. We began to hook up soon after. It took me 6 months to find out about Juliet, 29-year-old female, his then girlfriend, now wife. I was the one who told her everything, and she's despised me ever since. I don't blame her though. I found out I was pregnant 2 months after we broke up. I have a really strong support system, and my family was okay with helping me, so I decided to keep my baby girl. I told Luca and Juliet, who decided to forgive him, and Luca said that it was my decision, but Juliet went off, saying that I had to end it, that she was a mistake, a sin, and that I've already ruined her life enough. My friends called me a jerk then for keeping Ivy, but she was blameless and I don't regret it. Fast forward to now, my girl's 1 and they're married. I gave Luca the choice to be out of Ivy's life because I thought I owed Juliet that much. But he refused, and my daughter loves her daddy so much. She also loves Juliet, and luckily Juliet loves her too. I'm grateful for that, and I'm okay with Juliet forming a bond with my daughter because she's her stepmom and will be part of her life. The problem is that, now that they're married, she's demanded a lot of things. First, she wants more custody time. We have 70-30 because Luke has been traveling for work. She wants to take Ivy for a full week instead of 2 to 3 days. She also wants to take Ivy to France to meet her family, and she wants to be able to make decisions for her with us. With all of this, I was okay. I truly was. But then she said she wanted Ivy to call her mama, since I'm mom or mommy, and wants to rotate Mother's Day. I thought she was bluffing, so I said, haha, you're an idiot, no, without thinking. She took great offense in this, and I said that I won't teach my daughter to call her mama, and if she wants to do it, she has to decide it herself since she's not her mom, and I'm very much in the picture and I'll ever be. I said I won't rotate Mother's Day too, at least not until a few years because this is my baby. She stormed out after calling me a skank, and I called Luca as soon as it happened. He said I should just indulge her, that she deserves it for what we did to her, but I said that I didn't do anything. I didn't even know she existed, and when I found out, I cut him off, and that my daughter's not a coin that'll be used to pay every wronging she feels. Am I really the jerk? I would say OP's not the jerk in this situation because you're the one that literally spent those 9 months creating this baby and giving birth to them. You're the one that's advocated for them all along. You're the one that takes 70-30 care of them. Would you guys agree that OP is not the jerk for standing strong on these demands? Or considering everything that happened leading up to this moment, does the stepmom deserve some extra stuff? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is from Pocket Lobster 88. Am I the jerk for going off on my wife after she made a sex sign to keep my mom from knocking on our bedroom door? So I've been married to my wife for 4 years. We have a medium-sized apartment. For the last 2 months, my mother's been staying off and on in our guest room. My dad recently passed away, and it's hard for her to live in their house alone, so I've been letting her stay with us. My wife and her have never particularly got along, but I expected her to understand why it's important to me and that she overlooked this just for a little while. I mean, she lost her husband of 40 years. She's fragile, and I really want to be able to do what I can to make her feel better. My mom's presence has changed our routine a little bit, mainly our nighttime routine. She'll usually come knock on our door to talk. My wife hates this, partially because it interrupts our intimacy. Usually when she's over, we just don't make love. So this past week, I noticed my mom wasn't coming in at night, so we had normal nighttime habits. Yesterday, Mom pulled me aside and told me that the sign I let my wife put on the door at night was disgusting and not something she ever needed to know. She also said that she was very hurt that I don't want to speak to her since I'm all she has left now. I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She said the sign about sex. I still had no idea and talked to my wife about it when she got home. She admitted to it. She said that she had made a sign to keep my mom out of her hair at nights. On the sign was written, "Please do not disturb unless you want to see me screwing your son." She thought it was funny and necessary, but I was mad about it. I took the sign, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the garbage. I then went off on my wife about how inappropriate and embarrassing this was. She told me it's my fault that we needed this and it's just a joke. I slept on the couch last night and she's still pissed at me. Am I the jerk? I'm gonna say both sides are being the jerks here. I think it's pretty clear OP had an inability to just communicate with their mom and explain that those hours they prefer to have to their own for, whatever purposes. Basically, there's 24 hours in a day, they can pick another time to talk. But I also think the wife was a little over the line with such a blatant sign. Especially depending on how the mom is. If the mom isn't very vulgar or crass, putting a sign out that's so blatant like that is kind of just a little much probably. Our next story is from Throwaway47. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my husband? My husband's not an openly affectionate person. He doesn't like showing too much emotion in public either because he thinks it attracts too much attention, which is embarrassing to him. Well, our 16-year-old son Ethan had a swim meet a few days ago, but unfortunately didn't do very well. We were still very proud of him, and we tried telling him that, but he burst into tears. My husband was right in front of him, and so Ethan began leaning on him and sobbed. This happened in front of a lot of people in the parking lot. My husband just stood there before pushing him onto me. I was really bothered by this. I mean, your son, who's literally nicknamed Sunshine because of how happy he always is, broke down in your arms and you push him away and roll your eyes? I kept quiet because, well, comforting our son was my main priority, but once we were driving home, we stopped at a Walmart for my other kids. Ethan decided to stay in the car because he was exhausted. I was still pretty annoyed with my husband, but again, I just didn't say anything to avoid causing a scene. Well, my husband started telling me that he wanted me to tell Ethan to never do that ever again in public. I sort of went, what the freak? And he said that Ethan should know that it's embarrassing for a boy to cry over losing a dumb game, but felt it would be better coming from me. I called him ridiculous for claiming that guys aren't allowed to feel emotions and said, just because you're so insecure doesn't mean everyone else has to be. I was agitated, and honestly, I admit I said it a bit loud. There were a couple of people in the aisle that looked at us, plus a teenage girl that laughed, and my husband glared at me before storming off. We didn't say anything else until we got home, and the kids went to their rooms, but my husband says I'm a major jerk because 1, I embarrassed him publicly, and 2, I'm disrespecting and making fun of his boundaries. I think he's being really strange, but I can sort of see where he's coming from. It's just our son, I'm curious, am I the jerk? I think OP is not being the jerk here because while it is a boundary of theirs, I think this is a really individualistic, maybe unhealthy boundary. Romantic PDA is honestly one thing, but if your son is devastated over something and you can't give your own son a comforting hug, I think that's more of a proper underlying issue than it is a boundary. Would you guys agree with me? Or would you guys say that OP is the jerk and should respect those boundaries? This next story is from Excellent Ad 1055. Am I the jerk for uninviting my grandmother for my wedding after she gave her vintage dress to my dad's affair partner? My grandma has a gorgeous vintage wedding dress. It's couture, really cool without looking dated, and she's okay with it being altered or modernized. She mentioned a few times in passing when I was a kid that as the oldest girl, I had dibs on it. We aren't super close because she's the mother-in-law from heck to my mom, but she's big on passing stuff down. So I just assumed it would always be there. We had a family friend, Ella. It's kind of complicated, but my grandma had some type of romantic relationship, think long-term paid mistress, with Ella's dad, and was a big part of Ella's growing up. Ella and my dad hated each other. My grandma always loved her like a daughter, and she was always around, though long past the relationship with her dad ending. Ella and my dad had an inappropriate relationship my entire life. They used to hate each other, and they were so immature about it. Then when I got older, I could see the way they fought was kind of changing, and there was some tension. Then they became friends. Eventually, they were both cheating on their spouses. It got to the point that he was pretty much living with her at another house and just showing up occasionally to keep up appearances. I think his biggest hesitation was that me and my siblings hated Ella. 2 years ago, he told my mom he couldn't live a lie anymore and he was in love with Ella and thought he might have been their whole marriage. He admitted he only married my mom due to societal pressure and because she would be a good mom. He actually broke down crying. My mom had always kind of known, but obviously fell apart. I'm trying to come around because I've never seen my dad this happy, but I still can't stand her. Currently, we're both planning weddings, and I found out my grandma gave the dress to Ella. I asked how she could choose her over family, and she told me Ella's literally on the level of a child to her, and if she had to choose, she would choose her. I said, fine, don't come. My dad's now mad and says I'm being childish. He says that I'm too young to understand, but everyone's going to gossip, so I need to re-invite my grandmother. He's willing to pay for my dress, but says that I should get that Ella and my grandma have a special bond. I don't think OP's the jerk here. I think this is just, there's so many different layers and levels to this. It's so twisted and it's kind of funny for OP's dad to suggest anything about considering possible gossip when they'd been the one long-term cheating on their spouse and just like the amount of layers going on in this story anyways. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my other daily videos. Every single day I have videos with awesome stories like our next one from ColdGuard725. Am I the jerk for deciding to separate our finances just because my wife refused to buy a pair of earrings for my daughter? My wife and I have one daughter from a previous marriage each. Mine is called Penn, 15-year-old female, and hers Amy, 17-year-old female. We've been married for 10 years now. Our finances are joint because we don't care for money. She makes $70,000 to $80,000 and I make $180,000 to $200,000 per year. She's in charge of our finances. My wife has this weird fixation on having the kids earn their stuff, and while I agree, both of our daughters are well-behaved, good students, and kind. I don't see why they have to earn every single thing daily. For example, if my daughter's working in the kitchen at night and goes to sleep without putting her laptop away because she'll work again in the morning, then my wife decides that she can't eat anything sweet that day. I've voiced with better words that I find it stupid. Same thing goes for her daughter. She's prone to forget things easily, and if she doesn't remember to put away this or that thing, my wife removes her phone or tablet. Yesterday was my day off, and I stay back home resting while my wife and our kids went out to buy my mother-in-law's Mother's Day gift. Around 5 p.m., my daughter came to my room and said that my wife bought Amy a necklace, and when she asked for a pair of earrings she loved, my wife refused because the night before, she stayed up until late watching Netflix when she knows she can't do it. This isn't the first time my wife refuses to buy my daughter things, and honestly, it boils my blood. My daughter is a really good kid. I work hard to make sure my family has every or most of the things they want, just for my wife to tell them no because they're kids being kids. When my wife came into our room, I was honest. I said that her rule was utterly stupid and I was done putting up with that. That I don't particularly like her buying one thing for a girl while the other had nothing, and that until she accepts to attend therapy with me and fix this problem, our money will be taken care of separately and the joint account will be for the house and emergency matters only. This means she'll now have to pay half of the utilities and some other things. She didn't like it because her money will be cut short, and implied I was financially abusing her by doing this for a pair of earrings. She went to her parents, and my father-in-law called me soon after. He said I was a jerk and that it was my obligation to provide for my family. I don't think OP's being the jerk here because I agree that kids will be kids. I think it's good to discipline them, but I think it's ridiculous that if a kid stays up late watching Netflix one night while still being a good kid by every other metric, that you're going to punish them like that. You're just a total jerk of a parent. I feel like if you treat your kids like that, you're the parent that when they can, they'll get out of that house, move away, and send you a card every Christmas, and that's just about it. And honestly, a lot of credit to OP for offering couples therapy, because I don't see how you can argue beyond that. This next story is from ViasCon78. Am I the jerk for being angry at a puppy for a Mother's Day gift? I'm 43-year-old female. My husband, 45-year-old male, took our 3 kids' Mother's Day shopping today and came back with a surprise for me. When I opened my eyes, a 7-month-old beagle mixed puppy from the animal shelter jumped on me. I was shocked and speechless, not in a good way. I acted happily in front of our kids, but privately I was furious with him. I asked him how he thought it was a good idea to get someone a 15-year responsibility without their input or consent. He said the kids begged him to get a puppy and that everyone would help with the new dog. We already have one dog. I blew up on him and told him how angry and disrespected I felt. He feels it was a nice gesture and doesn't see why I would be upset. I feel awful now. I hate being angry. Am I the jerk here? I think it's impossible for OP to truly be the jerk here. In no way could you be the jerk for getting upset over a gift of a dog when you were never inquired about that gift. If you're going to do the dumb thing of giving an animal as a gift, you have to do your work to make sure that that person is by every means on board with having that dog. Our next story is from Eli724. Am I the jerk for calling my ex's girlfriend an idiot after she repeatedly called my 4-year-old a thief? My son doesn't understand the difference between my house and his dad's house. To him, they're both home, so he tends to bring things from his dad's house to mine and vice versa. These things are stuff that doesn't belong to my son but belong to me or my ex. We're both aware he does this, and we both think he does it as a coping mechanism for being away from the other parent, so we have an agreement to just return the items whenever we can. My ex's girlfriend noticed my son had put a gift she had given to my ex in his bag. She accused him of being a thief and said he was trying to steal from them. She ended up making my son cry and wouldn't listen when I was trying to explain the situation and how he wasn't stealing since my ex is okay with him doing this. Eventually, I got fed up and told her she was an idiot. She went and complained to my ex about it, who tried to defuse the situation by explaining the exact same thing I did. He told me I shouldn't have called her an idiot, and I told him she was behaving like one. The girlfriend obviously doesn't like me anymore, and my ex is frustrated by both of us. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP is the jerk, but there definitely needs to be some kind of better communication somehow established here. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but it definitely needs to happen. Our next story is from Adventurous Heron 759. Am I the jerk for wearing a matching workout set to my stepdaughter's college graduation? My stepdaughter graduated college, so my husband, myself, and our kids, the ones we have together, traveled to watch the ceremonies, take her to dinner, give her gifts, and spend time with her, since she'll be all over during the summer with her friends and mom's side before she starts grad school in the fall. We had to fly in to see her, so I was wearing a comfy matching workout set and her school's color to celebrate on the flight, and had a dress and heels in my carry-on to change into before the ceremony. Unfortunately, we had a delayed flight, and things were very hectic, and we barely got there in time for the graduation, and our kids wanted to stop and pick out flowers for her. My young son got very sick, and with all the chaos and taking care of the kids and getting there with the traffic, I never ended up changing because it completely slipped my mind, and I have zero idea how. I think I was just very exhausted. My stepdaughter was very upset and was very warm to her dad and half-siblings, but was cold with me. I asked her privately what was wrong, and she told me that she was furious with how disrespectful I was with my clothing. People were dressed kind of casually because the big ceremony was outdoors in the football stadium, and that she wanted nice pictures with everyone dressed up. She said if she were my real kid, I would have never have done what I'd done. She also told her dad that I was banned from future events of hers because she knows I will be a terrible person and wear sweatpants to her wedding. I apologized and tried to explain what had happened and that I was very proud of her and was very sorry she felt like an afterthought. I told her we could all dress up for dinner and take better pictures, but she was angry at my suggestion. She hasn't spoken to me and has not spoken to my husband since. He apologized but tried to defend me. Am I the jerk? So I'm gonna say OP is the jerk because apparently they wore a sports bra and leggings. And when you know you're on the way to a graduation, I feel like it's almost impossible to overlook the fact that you're wearing a sports bra and leggings. Like at some point they had to intentionally go, I'm not gonna take the extra 5 minutes to change. We'll just roll up in this and deal with it as we go. Our next story is from Challenge Brave 7012. Am I the jerk for telling my biological sisters I don't want to meet our bio parents? I, 30-year-old female, am a Chinese woman who was adopted from mainland China when I was a baby and grew up in the UK. I grew curious of my roots and if I had any family out there, so I took a 23andMe test. I found 4 full sisters through this test. I'm the oldest. My sisters are 29, 28, 24, and 20. The 3 middle sisters are in America, and the youngest is in Germany. We've kept in contact via the internet and have even met in person twice before COVID started. I have 2 brothers I grew up with who are my parents' biological sons, and as far as I'm concerned, they and my parents are my true family, but I've grown close to my biological sisters as we understand each other a lot. What my parents know of my birth story is that I was found in an alleyway in a box. My sisters were found relatively the same way from what they know, though they were left outside of buildings and public areas. So I'm a bit more bitter than they are about how we were abandoned, as I was left out of the way where I could have been missed. We recently got contacted by a new family member found by the test, an 18-year-old full brother who lives in France with our bio parents. Apparently they moved there later in life. My biological sisters are excited by this and eager to meet them. They want the 5 of us to fly out together to meet our brother and family. I've told them I won't stop them, but I have no interest in meeting the couple who clearly kept trying to have a boy and abandoned 5 daughters we know of, reminding them there could be more we don't know about who haven't used 23andMe. They feel I'm being unreasonable in this, and I should at least go to meet our brother. I'm fine meeting him one day, but not with them there, and he and I have been exchanging emails for now. I know they want the 5 of us to go out as a united front in this, and me not wanting to go is disheartening for them, but I honestly feel bitter in regards to this whole situation. Personally, I definitely do not blame OP, and I don't think they're the jerk in this situation. I mean, to find out that your own biological parents did that to you and left you in a box in an alleyway, to know that they tried 5, maybe more times, I don't blame OP for holding that opinion and not wanting to ever meet those people. Frankly, to me, they don't seem like they would be the most pleasant people to be around. Because I don't know how you could stomach going and doing that to 5 different children, and again, possibly more. This next story is from Throwaway75754. Am I the jerk for demanding my husband to apologize for ripping the picture my son drew just because he didn't include his stepbrother in it? I, female 33, have a son, 11, from my former relationship with my ex-husband. Currently, I'm married to my husband, male 37, Joe, who has a 15-year-old son. My son isn't that close to his stepbrother for many reasons, including age, interests, hobbies, etc. My son likes to draw a lot. His stepbrother tends to rip his drawings whenever they get into a fight. Now, siblings and step-siblings fight constantly, which is normal. What isn't normal is my stepson touching and ruining my son's drawings, which take time and effort, and sometimes emotions. My stepson apologized every time he did it, and with the help of some boundaries I put in place, he no longer damages my son's drawings. I got my son a lock. Joe complained about me creating distance between the boys and suggested I should let them resolve this between them. My son drew a picture of me, Joe, and him and showed it to us. Joe got extremely pissed when he saw it and started scolding my son for not including his stepbrother. I got involved and told him off, but he proceeded to rip up the picture in half, then into smaller and smaller pieces. My son started crying, and I snapped and yelled at Joe, asking what the heck was wrong with him. He told my son to go upstairs because he was punished, and his punishment won't be canceled till he starts including his stepbrother in his drawings. I told him to stop, but he told me stay out of it. You're the reason we're having this issue, and said that I made the boys resent each other by enabling my son's unjustified hatred for his stepbrother and setting boundaries. He kept air quoting that word that shouldn't be set between brothers. I reminded him of what his son had done that caused my son to exclude him, then told him that none of us, even myself, have the right to demand to be included in anything my son draws. It's his own thing and he gets the final say. I then demanded that he apologize to my son immediately. Joe sarcastically clapped and then said that if I keep this up, then my son will grow up to be antisocial and soft. I went upstairs, leaving him ranting about how this was basically my fault. I stayed with my son until he calmed down. Joe told me that by expecting him to apologize, I'm not treating him as a parent and undermining his word. I think OP's definitely not the jerk, and I think that Joe is being very uncaring and rough, and to me is like radiating some serious hardcore toxic macho bullcrap, letting their son be a bully, and then because the stepson's getting upset justifiably, they're basically saying, "Get up, son, stop letting that bother you, stop being such a wimp." It's just really weird that they're kind of advocating for their kids to fight as a way of trying to resolve their issues. Basically, I think OP's definitely not the jerk and not wrong. Our next story is from SailFlag3779. Am I the jerk for going off on my husband after seeing the texts he sent his mom, which constantly caused her to berate me? I have a 4-month-old daughter. Motherhood is obviously difficult, but with the pressure from people around me warning me not to mess up, it became too overwhelming. Whenever my daughter gets sick, I'd get a call from my mother-in-law, who's a medical professional, to point out what I did wrong, then berate and lecture me about it, although I do all I can. Days ago, my daughter started having diaper rash. Mother-in-law called me and was furious. I still had no idea how she knew. My husband said he didn't see or call her for 2 weeks. I had an argument with her after she accused me of causing my daughter her diaper rash and also called me neglectful. Last night, when my husband and I were laying in bed, he wanted to show me something on his phone. As he scrolled through his texts, I got a text that he sent to his mom around the time our daughter got sick. I looked at it and it said that I caused our daughter's diaper rash and then neglected treatment. I was stunned. He saw the look on my face and wanted to retrieve the phone, but I took it and scrolled up and saw more texts from him, basically giving her details about every move I make regarding our daughter's care. I felt enraged and quite betrayed. I went off on him, told him he was out of line tattling to his mom about my mess-ups, and not only letting her, but encouraging her to berate me and lecture me about my own daughter, which has worn my self-esteem down as a mother and caused me depression. He said I shouldn't have snooped on his private conversations with his mom and said that I needed this occasional guidance from his mom to make sure our daughter's in good health. I yelled at him and he called me crazy, then walked out to stay on the couch. Things have been pretty bad after that, and this morning he avoided me and refused to talk about it, except to say that I overstepped by reacting with hostility. Bottom line, I definitely think that OP's not the jerk here, and all I gotta say is this is definitely a huge red flag and a breach of trust for OP. I mean, everything you do, your own husband's going behind your back on a one-way call with their mom saying, "Yeah, she did this and that and this is her fault." Like, maybe at some point you'll be able to actually get your husband out of your mom's womb. And our final story of the day is by Opposite Camp 3968. Am I the jerk for getting mad that I wasn't invited to my ex-wife's wedding? My ex-wife and I were together for 7 years, and we have 2 daughters together, ages 5 and 3. Shortly after the birth of our 3-year-old, we broke up in a kind of civil manner. A few months after our breakup, she met her current fiancé and they started dating. Once our divorce was finalized, a year after that, they got engaged. Overall, due to the fact that I'm the father of 2 children that I have with her and I've been in her family for 7 years, I have a pretty great relationship with her family, and I still get invited to family gatherings. I can tell my ex is not too happy about it, but she sucks it up for the sake of the kids and her family. Now they're planning their wedding for some time and they just gave out invites. I wasn't included. Our daughters were, but I wasn't. I contacted her family, mainly her sisters and her mom, and I expressed how upset I am that I'm excluded from the wedding, and I'm even more upset that they didn't do something about it. They say that it's not up to them, and it's the couple's decision, and they wish they had me there, but they don't want to piss off my ex-wife by going against her wishes. Later, my ex called me and scolded me for calling her family to complain, and asked me why I feel entitled to an invite to her wedding. I told her I still feel like part of the family, and it's weird that I'm invited to all these family gatherings, but excluded from this one, and I think we can all be civil and supportive towards each other. I also feel like it'll be a good thing for our kids to see us being so supportive, and me being in the wedding sends a good message. We're still co-parenting after all, and we have a decent kind of relationship despite our breakup, and I don't see a reason to be excluded since I'm still a big part of her life since we share 2 kids. She said I'm very entitled for this and that it's ridiculous how I got mad that I, as an ex, was not invited to the wedding and that she doesn't owe me that. Am I the jerk? I'm gonna say that OP is the jerk. Whether or not they feel it's wrong or right, they have every right to choose who and who doesn't come to the wedding. I think a lot of the reasons OP brings up are pretty reasonable, like it probably would be good for the kids to see being civil and supportive towards each other, but it's also her wedding and she has every right to pick who she feels comfortable with being there. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.